Hello.
Hi.
So it's 7 o'clock. It's just us, but I think people will still be arriving for a few minutes. So I'm not going to start the meeting officially for maybe 3 more minutes, 3 or 4 more minutes.
Hi.
Hi there.
Nice to have Frida Kahlo at the meeting.
I was
Yes.
gonna say I got a new computer and this is my old icon. So
I thought she had
put it
died
on
a long time,
Odyssey.
but I'm glad to see that she's still around.
She's my spirit guide.
Very good.
I guess we should ask what aspect of her that you admire.
Oh, everything about her. Her spirit, her courage, her artistic vision.
So, Steve, we can talk about this later if we end up with time. You saw that city council did adopt the whole SB 79 and the mayor signed it yesterday.
I did, but I haven't had a chance to read it.
Oh, I'm not going to read it. It's got to be
Okay.
hundreds and hundreds of pages.
I was at the ODS workshop yesterday.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because I signed up, but apparently wasn't reminded. Oh, well.
Well, same old stuff.
What is ODS?
Objective design standards for HPOZs.
Oh,
I would just call it odious.
Well, okay. And where are they taking it next? Did they say?
Yeah, they did, but I wasn't listening to that part.
Uh,
Um,
Was it at all updated and are they posting the updates anymore?
yeah, it's all posted on their website. The new draft is posted for about a week now.
All right. Well, I guess I'll look at it there.
Yeah. The one interesting thing to me is that they don't really talk about height, massing, and scale. So there was a question about that, and the answer was totally different than the answer we received regarding Burger Palace.
Interesting. But was the answer totally different than what we heard at the conference in February?
I don't remember hearing an answer to that question at the conference.
Well, it wasn't so much, it was do you like it this way or do you like it that way or do you like it this way? And no one liked any of it as a one or the other. You remember there was
Yeah.
worksheet, yeah, something.
So the new ODS standards don't reference height at all. And I'm happy to talk more about that during the meeting at the appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, fine. At the
end.
If we get to the end where we get to do follow-up to previous, and we might get to the end because I don't know, there's not 25 people here.
And there aren't a lot of items to discuss.
Correct. And there's not 25 people here to discuss the one big item. So I guess we could just go ahead and get started.
Good.
And there is no one besides myself here in the room at the moment either. So my name is Laura Myers. I am the chair of UNNC's Planning and Zoning Committee. I'm going to have officially convened this meeting at 7:04 on July 1st. And I'm going to share the screen. I'm trying to remember, what am I going to share the screen with our agenda? And we know if everyone can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So this is our agenda. we have a first line welcome, call to order, standing rules, introduce ourselves, and then review the agenda itself. But I'm going to go ahead and review the agenda itself. General public comments, and then, as always have a little trouble navigating this. The main item on our agenda tonight is a discussion about a new case that's also an old case. So ZA 2026-3207 RV, which is a hearing regarding potential revocation or adding new conditions or doing nothing at all related to the Murphy oil drilling site. Item 4 is the follow-up to previous cases, UNNC, which is the notification system in all business, and then we adjourn. So back to the top, the standing rules for UNNC's committee memberships is that essentially we only appoint our chairs or co-chairs, and otherwise anyone who's in attendance at any of our committee meetings, but it's most relevant to land use. Anyone who is an actual UNNC stakeholder is therefore a voting member of the committee for the duration of the meeting. So it's not just about participating in the discussion, but you may make motions and you may vote. Our votes are merely recommendations to our governing board, or occasionally sort of a vote to tell the chair, that'd be me, to present a list of questions to an applicant so we can actually end up with a motion that goes to the governing board on a situation. Who is a stakeholder is anyone who lives, works, owns property, owns a business, has is attending school here or has a child in a school here, worships here, or otherwise participates through a nonprofit organization which has a brick and mortar address within the boundaries of UNC. City clerk sent out an email today describing organization stakeholders and added chambers of commerce, which would not be 501c3. So I'm not quite sure where that conflict of definition has arisen, but I'm not sure it matters for us at this point anyway. So I will start the introductions and voting affirmations. My name is Laura Myers. I live in Angeles Vista, and I am on the board of UNNC. And then if I could, I'm going to stop the share and go around the Zoom room in the order I see people, which I'll start with Steve.
I'm Steve Peckman. I live in Jefferson Park. I'm a stakeholder, and I will vote if there's anything to vote on.
Okay, Robbie.
Hi, my name's Rabia. I'm a UNNC board member and stakeholder, and here to hear more about the agenda tonight.
And you live in Jefferson Park.
And I live in Jefferson Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Sun Min.
Hi, I'm Sun Min. I'm a stakeholder, live in Jefferson Park, here to learn more about all these great planning issues, and I would participate in the vote.
Colleen.
Colleen, I live in Jefferson Park. I'm a stakeholder.
And Siobhan.
I'm Siobhan O'Neill Schwenk from Western Heights, and I'm also the UNNC representative, one of the representatives from Region 4.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Laura, someone's here.
Okay, can they get in on their own? Okay, still can they get in on their own? I'm running the meeting. Anyway, so item number 2 on our agenda is general public comments on any item that is not on the agenda for tonight. So that would not include updates to prior cases. So does anybody have a general public comment? And I'll come back to you. Well, I have one general public comment, which is that Council District 10 is hosting a movie in the park, this park, Benny Potter, West Avenue, Adams Avenues Park, on next Friday, not 3 days from now, following Friday, July 10. The movie is Elio. I cannot give you a review of the movie, but it's going to be a fun event, especially for kids who like to watch outdoor movies. Okay, any other general public comments? I'm going to come back to introduction, get to people who you are. Okay. Yeah. Whether or not you're a stakeholder to UNNC, meaning do you live, work, worship, attend school, have a kid who attends school, or participate in a community organization with an address within UNNC. Okay. All right, I think I'm in. Well, you just start talking. And if you slide over, it should catch you.
Oh, the camera moves. Okay.
The camera moves. Now the box will block you. Okay. Camera.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy. I live on 42nd in Arlington. I'm not sure if this was no. Okay. And I am here, I mean, as a resident, but also I am the director of organizing and policy for Redeemer Community Partnership. And so we are working on closing down the Murphy Drill site, which is on Gramercy, and Gramercy and Adams, So yeah, so that's just my little intro, and I'll wait until public comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Someone's trying to get in.
Yep.
What was your organization?
Redeemer Community Partnership.
Which is a subsidiary or partner to Redeemer Baptist Church, correct? Or Redeemer Church.
Kind of, yeah. We were our own 501c3 organization, nonprofit organization. Working mostly in the Jefferson Park, University Park area.
Love what you guys are doing on Jefferson Boulevard.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. And hello, Michelle. We're still doing some introductions. I don't know if you're logged in all the way.
I'm here. Yeah, it was taking.
So if you could just introduce yourself and mention that you're on the UNNC board. There you muted yourself.
Okay, I didn't hear anything you said.
I said we at this committee we introduce ourselves, say where we live, and or how we're a stakeholder. You're on the UNNC board, so if you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Edith Rosser, stakeholder through my activities with Rising Communities, and
Okay, and you're on the board. Okay, I'm gonna.
That's all.
Yeah,
I'm a
that'll
mom
do.
of
Thank you.
three.
Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 3, which I'm going to bring back up the agenda. And read it aloud. Try to read it aloud. Okay, so the agenda item is ZA-2026 3203 RV. So that is a 2026 case. In fact, it was filed in June, and RV stands for revocation. And the related case is ZA 1959 152227. That's an O for oil, not a 0. PA6, which is plan approval 6, meaning the 6th time that there was a plan approval case. And then the -1A relates to an appeal that was filed for PA6 and which resulted in a determination issued by the South Los Angeles Area Planning Commission a couple of years ago, 2024, I believe, that did add conditions for the oil drilling use located at 2126 West Adams Boulevard. So the 1959 in that case number does really stand for the year 1959, if you knew that, which is when this and many other oil drill sites were approved by the then, for those of us who were alive, by the zoning administrator at the time. So the property doing business as the Murphy Oil drill site has generated numerous complaints and received various notices of violations from regulatory agencies. The city has now responded by scheduling a public hearing for the possible imposition of conditions to abate the nuisance or to revoke said use. And just by the way, this was copied from the hearing notice. They have not yet made a determination that there is a nuisance. So it's sort of weird language, but because part of the determination actually is to determine whether or not there's a nuisance. Anyway, pursuant to Chapter 1A, Section 13B.6.2 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code, the Associate Zoning Administrator may require the discontinuance of the use or may impose corrective conditions regarding its use in order to mitigate any land use and impacts. And then the second paragraph is more of a backgrounder for everyone. UNNC has been engaged with the Murphy Oil drilling site in a variety of related cases since the year 2004, most recently in 2023-2024, when the South LA Area Planning Commission adopted the current list of conditions. Specifically, UNNC has previously stated that it wants all operators, meaning there's been a series over the years, so any and all operators of the drill site to be compliant with all regulations, state, local, federal, and to be compliant with all the conditions imposed by the conditional use permit, also known as the CUP. And UNNC has recommended conditions that may better serve the community. I'll be specific. In the last round, we recommended 6 conditions that were drawn up in this committee, but several years ago. The Planning and Zoning Committee will discuss whether to recommend that the governing board maintain this position or adjust the position. This is all related to a hearing that is scheduled for Thursday, July 23rd at 10 a.m. And this hearing will be conducted entirely virtually via Zoom, and then you see the links. So UNNC may or may not tomorrow night at our board meeting take up a position that can be presented during the hearing, or authorize us to present the 2024. We have a resolution and community impact statement already, but we don't know what else is going on with this, or completely change our position. We have multiple choices. Anyone who is here or people who are not here has the right to individually express their opinion at the hearing, just so long as you don't represent that you're speaking on behalf of UNNC. In other words, you can go as an individual. So it's not always likely that we can leave a planning and zoning committee meeting with everybody in agreement. So nobody is prevented from expressing their own opinion at the hearing. I think it will be a rather large hearing from my understanding. And there's that. Okay, so Steve, you are one of our co-chairs of our oil drilling subcommittee. I know this caught everyone by surprise, the oil drilling operator among others, but did you want to sort of start out the discussion, and then I'll turn over to you because you'll say something different, and then we can open it up.
Well, I'll just start out by saying that no materials directly relevant to the revocation case have been posted by the city. So it's impossible for us to know what the basis of the hearing is. Nothing official has been released. We have no materials. It's my understanding that the operator of the oil site, E&B, has also not received any materials. And so we're absolutely in the dark over why this is happening and what have been the problems. So I don't really know personally what there is to discuss at this point, except that we would, of course, want to continue with the condition that any operator of the site should fulfill all the compliance requirements and that the UNNC should continue to support that. But I feel like we're really in the dark as a committee, and whatever would be presented tonight by anybody would be more conjecture than anything else. So I'm very uncomfortable about making any statements about the reasons or what the city's position is about this revocation, because we don't know.
Right, so I guess I'll background it a little more. I did reach out to the associate zoning administrator whose name appears in the prior files and who has submitted sort of memos to the record in not the current case file, which is, as Steve said, it's empty. There's zero information in the case file. But he has not called me back. The case was deemed complete on the, whatever that means, on the 23rd of June. So technically, whatever material was utilized by the zoning administration team, zoning administrators, that material that they utilized to create a case and call a hearing and deem it complete should have been posted. And the representative for E&B, who is traveling and thus cannot be with us today or tomorrow, did indicate that he's asked for the same materials and was told that they would not be available to him or us or any member of the public until 72 hours before the hearing. So it is, I mean, we're kind of digressing from whether or not there should be an oil drill site in the middle of a residential area and moving into transparency and, you know, objectivity. I mean, it's a real problem, because if there is a case that's going to be conducted primarily in secret, I just feel that, among other things, the city's opening itself up for a fairly significant lawsuit if they actually do a revocation. Not so much if they add some conditions, but to not make the materials available that they're basing a revocation case and hearing on to the owner and, I'll say applicant, but the operator, in enough time for them to even have a response is bad law. Yes, Steve.
I just, relevant to that, I think the major issue for this committee is that our neighborhood council, this committee, and our community, through this absence of or lack of transparency by the city, is disenfranchising all of us from this process because we are not provided with sufficient time and the information necessary to do the research and come up with a plan and to mobilize the community in a way that would involve appropriate information and education. So I'm very concerned about the lack of transparency, about the fundamental unfairness of this process to everybody involved, including our community that has worked very hard to try to ensure the safety of the community in the cohabitation with this oil drilling site. And that this is a fundamentally undemocratic process through the way it's disenfranchising everybody. So I would like, personally, I would like to see us go as far as to write to the zoning administrator with these concerns, and to Heather Hutt, our representative, and complain to the planning department that these materials need to be released immediately. And in no way should the city ever engage in such a process like this again.
Oh, can I be just a little snarky? Unless it was to do the very same kind of thing with Wilshire Toe, but that's not likely. they're gonna make us go through a lot of evidentiary procedures in order to get any kind of revocation hearing. I had, before Colleen, I know we were sort of discussing, but I forgot your name.
Nancy, no, no
I
worries.
had said to Nancy that she could. I mean, I don't know if you're yet at a place, so Nancy's probably gonna tell us why the people she works with wants the oil field removed from our lives, right?
Right.
So I don't know if we should go on and continue to talk about the transparency issues and then move to you. What do you think?
That's up to you. I don't know if maybe Colleen has something relevant to the current discussion to comment
She
on.
might, and I also,
And also,
Next.
Max feels from the community. You live
Yes.
around here. Yes, because I know you look familiar to me. So everybody has introduced themselves, so could you just introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Max Phillips. I live down the street. I'm part of WANA. And we've been dealing with this issue of the Murphy drill site for a while. Both the pollution, the toxicity, our personal health. So
You're representing WANA, or you're just here as an individual?
well, I am on the board of WANA, sure.
All right.
What is
So-
WANA?
West Adams Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
It's what those of us who have been here a long time call the Charles Victor Hall track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colleen.
I don't have anything super relevant, just two questions that don't need to be answered, but it would be nice if we answer them sometime during this discussion, which is, it's just a procedural question about the South LA Planning Commission. Do they vote on, it's been 20 plus years since I went to one of those hearings, and I cannot remember if they vote on the day or if they take things under advisement after they after the hearing. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, if anybody has the hearing notice, I guess the hearing notice is probably.
I have the hearing notice. I can share it.
Oh, okay. Is it in the packet? I just want to send it to STEM because their students have definitely expressed interest in the site. And so I just want to let them know at STEM in case any of their students would like to go to the hearing. Seems like a great thing for students to do.
I'll answer
So
the
that's
second thing first because it was Eric Barlow who contacted me. So
Eric Barlow let you know that this was happening.
yes, the city did not.
Interesting.
The city did
Interesting.
not inform UNSC.
Okay, so he already knows. Great.
Yes, so he already knows. And I can share the hearing notice in a moment. I'm like hard pressed to figure out where to go. So what I learned in looking at paperwork in the quote related file, the 1959 -something-O PA 6 file, after the Area Planning Commission voted, and Colleen, in that case, I think in almost all cases, they do not take anything under consideration. They render their opinion in public at the commission hearing. And that's what they did in this case. But along with their determination, in the case summary online, there's subsequent correspondence. Some may have been from the Redeemer Group. Some was from the zoning administrator to the oil drilling operator. Some was from the oil drilling operator to the zoning administrator. In our file, so I pulled down, not 100% of that, pulled down a lot of those documents. The zoning administrator in January of this year created a quite long document that sort of was a document of documents, but none of them at that time seemed to indicate anything about a possible revocation, and they're not in the revocation file. So that's why we're sort of like, I do know that a resident did do a public records request to see if any of this would become available. And I don't know if you have any insight as to how this hearing came about. So I'm gonna now turn it to Nancy.
Okay, yeah. I think to answer the question, the hearing came about just, you know, as you said, there was a 2024 conditions that came about from the, you know, South LA Planning Commission like hearings, and since then, you know, we've been in communications with the OZA, the Office of Zoning Administrator, just about the way that they're not really complying with those conditions. And I think just through those conversations and the advocacy that Redeemer has done, also with collaboration with the Stand LA Coalition, which is the Stand Together Against Neighborhood Drilling Los Angeles Coalition. I think the city has just heard its residents and has opened this case. So it moved through city council in March, and so council approved this to open a nuisance abatement revocation hearing in March. And so it just got scheduled for July, you know, a couple
So
weeks
are
ago.
you saying, this is Laura, oh, I should say, for those of us who are in the room, this meeting is being transcribed, recorded and transcribed. Every time we speak, it thinks the UNNC president is speaking.
Oh, so we have to say our name and then
Each time.
Okay.
So this is Laura.
Okay.
So is this is a city council initiated revocation hearing?
Right, and CD 10 brought it, like motioned for this, and then city council passed it in March. Sorry, this is Nancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think, and Steve, while I'm sitting here, I cannot go look on, you know, the council file. I don't know if you're able to, do you think the materials that lead to this are there instead of in planning department's case summary file?
I don't think so, and I do have the council file number somewhere in my, you know, emails and stuff. I can look it up but I don't believe so. I think as far as I remember, the only thing in the council file documents is the motion language. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware.
So I am in trouble. So again, I've been involved with the oil drilling case personally since 2000. And it was through UNNC's efforts and a banker's box full of papers from 1959 to 2004 that resulted in a lot of the original much expanded conditions and the redoing of the landscaping below and a lot of that. And all of that was, I have to be careful what we say. Just by the way, everybody, our last meeting, which was, you know, being broadcast on YouTube, got cut off because we said or did something that's not been identified that YouTube found to be objectionable. So I'm being careful about what I say, just in case it was something that my filthy mouth said at the last meeting, so that we can continue to have our YouTube recordings. It was very, very difficult to get information from the planning department. And lots of public record requests were made from then forward. So the first box that we got mysteriously showed up at the council office, and we never knew who retrieved this box from an archives and delivered it to the council office. But subsequent to that, we did a lot of we had to do public records requests and found a lot of internal memos where it's just not very transparent how decision making is happening. So, and that was the opposite side, where we wanted to impose more conditions and we were getting resistance. And one of those memos that we found in public records actually said, you know, that Laura, me, she is a pit bull, she won't let go. It's like, yay. You know, so we've had this difficulty. Now we're on the opposite side of it, where there's just nothing in any record that says why now for a revocation. From what I see in the correspondence file, there was a big concern with a third party, which I don't believe is a true third party, but a third party company doing it's every 5-year
audit.
No, it was a chemical thing in the pipelines.
Oh, yes.
Right, and that company didn't get any permits, or if it did, it didn't share it even with EMB. So I think one of the things that is inferred in the memo to file, the ultimate memo to file, was that there should be a condition that requires that even the third party people have to follow all the conditional use permit
Right, and so
conditions.
I know Steven's hands is up.
Yeah.
Wanna go to
Okay.
him before I do my little spiel, unless you want me to speak to it now. I do have, just a history of the notices of violations that have been issued at the Murphy Drill site. One of them is what you're
Okay.
talking about. That might shed some light as to, why now, why this moment. So if you want me to go into that now, it might take a few minutes. So I don't know if, if you want to get to Steven's hand
Steve,
first.
why don't we do Steven and then
Great.
unless you're gonna give us a 30 minutes, you're not.
Mic is off. We can't hear you.
Steve, yeah, you can talk.
Okay, thank you. I'm really even more concerned now that CD10 has not kept a line of communication about this open with its own neighborhood council, since this action was brought by Councilperson Hutt, our representative. I'm also continue to be concerned that we not enter into conjecture as to what the basis of this revocation hearing is, since we have no documents and no information. I have nothing, there's nothing in the file, there's nothing in the portal. I appreciate the work that Nancy has done, but from my point of view, anything that she presents is a guess.
Well, I'm gonna let her present because this is Laura speaking. I believe a lot of this may be the result of the advocacy, the groups that she's coalitioning with and or representing. Well, I mean, we should at least hear
But
what they.
Pitbull Laura, and I appreciate that name for you. I think it's,
Oh,
I think take it as an honorific.
No. Well, yes, but I don't think it's appropriate that one zoning administrator was emailing another
It's not.
with that.
It's totally inappropriate, but I was
Yeah.
joking.
As amusing.
I just want to
as
make
it
sure
be.
that we not misconstrue
Right.
guesswork for reality.
Correct. And I also want to be sure that everyone understands that what UNNC's position really has become. I mean, in other words, this is, however many decades into it, that, the same thing that was on the agenda, that they need to comply with all regulations, state, local, federal, whatever they may be, county,
And they should.
city, county, whatever, and be compliant with all the conditions. I don't think there's any reason we would ever change our minds on that.
Right.
And we have always, over the years, suggested conditions as things come up that would make the operation better, and resisted requests such as what was that burner thing?
That was it.
Yeah,
It
was
was
that
the
burner
gas
thing,
burner.
resisted requests that we thought would make the place more noxious. So, I don't know that we would have any change in that, but Nancy, why don't you just go ahead and tell us.
Okay.
But what
Sure.
you guys say, and I will also say that the company does say that its record is no violation, so there is a disconnect.
Right.
There's a disconnect.
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen paperwork that says no violation, so there's a disconnect. But go
Right.
ahead.
Yeah.
So it's Nancy speaking.
Oh, yeah. So this is Nancy for the record. I would say, I'm not conjecturing as to why CD10 did whatever it's doing. I think I'm just presenting tonight the information that Redeemer and Stand LA have compiled through our research, and also just in partnership with with Dr. Jill Johnson, Dr. Bhavna Ramashunder, just on some of the health impacts on communities who live within a 1,500 feet radius of a drill site. And some of the research that they've done has actually centered on the Murphy drill site. So that's just like a little bit of what, I'm going to be discussing tonight. I know everyone's virtual today besides Max and Laura, so I have digital copies of these, but I'm just going to kind of raise them up as I'm talking. I know you can't see them. I apologize, but I think the first thing that I kind of want to emphasize is just this little health brochure that we put together that kind of summarizes the research that has been done around Murphy and also just South LA drill sites in general. And so, you know, we just have some diagrams here of, you know, that 16,000 people live within a half mile of the drill site. And, you know, I'm sure y'all are aware because you live in this neighborhood, but right, that it includes, you know, convalescent hospital, a senior center right across the street. There's 3 elementary schools within that 1,500-foot radius, as well as just apartment buildings, homes. So it's just a land use that's right next to, you know, a very dense area. Right across the street is the UCLA Clark Library. And so some of the chemicals that are used at the drill site include methanol, benzene, hydrofluoric acid, sulfur dioxide is emitted from the drill site, as well as, you know, when CalGEM, the California Geologic Energy Management Division, which is a state regulatory agency, when they've done aerial methane surveys, they found the drill site to be blanketed in methane. And we know, you know, that methane doesn't just stop at the, you know, borders of where the use is, but that it spills over into the surrounding areas, right? So just a lot of really harmful, cancerous chemicals and substances that are used just in the natural course of oil production. And so we know that some of these, especially benzene, especially hydrofluoric acid, do cause a multitude of different respiratory, cardiovascular, other cancers, and as well as we've seen impacts on women's reproductive health, impacting things like prenatal birth to birth defects to miscarriage. And we have had community members just come to us with stories of, you know, their just health journeys. Someone brought up STEM prep, I think it was Colleen. Eric invited me to come speak to some of their parents towards the end of the school year a couple of weeks ago. And there was a mother who, after my presentation, was just very concerned because her son has been experiencing nosebleeds after school, as well as just like abnormal levels of lead in his body. And he was just experiencing fatigue. And doctors have not been able to figure out why. And I didn't tell her like, oh, it's because of the drill site, right? But I just did tell her, you know, that the school is very close to the drill site and this might be something to bring up with the doctor. And so just some of the symptoms that her son was presenting is in line with some of the research that Dr. Johnston and Dr. Sharma Sunder have been able to find in terms of the health impacts. So just wanted to start with that. And then I'm going to move to just the violations that, notices of violations that have been issued to the Murphy drill site. So, you know, the city conditions that Laura was mentioning, as well as the state, like California state, and the air quality management district, right? So I think some of the more pertinent ones that I would highlight is last November, the South Coast Air Quality Management District did issue 2 notices of violation for the use of equipment that is prohibited to be used within 1,000 feet of a school. And so this equipment was basically degassing equipment. And the same violation the exact same violation that was issued in November was also issued in January of 2021. So we kind of see this pattern of just a regulatory agency issuing a notice of violation and UNB just continuing to, you know, operate in the same way without much change to their behavior despite the notice of violation. And I think this is the one that you were maybe mentioning, Laura, because it was, and you know, ENB will make this distinction. The violation was issued to 2 of their subcontractors, not ENB themselves, but you know, the contractors are contracted by ENB and they're operating on the property that ENB is leasing. And so it, you know, their you know, the impact of the violation being issued to the contractor versus to ENB doesn't really make a difference in terms of the air pollution that is emitted via the use of this degassing equipment that is prohibited to be used within 1,000 feet of K-12 schools because of the thousands of students who attend school within that area. And, we did encourage some of our families to, potentially, send their kids, either not send their kids to school that day or with masks, or to encourage them maybe to stay inside during recess that day. So that is some of the work that we do as well in terms of, community, notification. As well as last May, there was a series of basically protests that we did that was in response to the operator notifying the community that they were going to do acid maintenance of their oil wells. And so we did see after the 2022, ordinance to phase out oil drilling was passed, we did see a lot less activity of acid maintenance. But when in 2024 the ordinance was overturned, we then saw operators kind of resume the acid maintenance, and that is one of the practices that operations that is really toxic in terms of emitting some of the chemicals I had cited earlier a few minutes ago. So due to just community resistance, the oil site did pause their acid maintenance and eventually just kind of gave up and stopped pursuing that maintenance activity because of just again like the community realizing just how toxic the activity is. And then the last one I'll mention in terms of state regulations in recent history was January 2025, so about a year and a half ago. The same South Coast Air Quality Management District did issue another notice of violation after an inspector discovered a gas leak of 209,000 parts per million. So 209, just to put it in perspective, because these numbers can get really like, what does that mean? 209,000 parts per million is 4 times the explosive level of a leak. And so they did issue a notice of violation to ENB for that leak. And like I said, in 2023, CalGEM, which is California Geologic and Energy Management District, they did find the site to be blanketed in methane, which is 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide over a 20-year time frame in terms of contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. So that's some of the state violation side. On the city operating condition side, there is an idle well that has been idle since 2023. And according to the LA Fire Code, it does require idle wells to be plugged or reactivated if it's been idle for 12 months. And so Murphy Well 18 has been idle for 3 years and it has still not been plugged. And the operating conditions have required them to construct a kind of enclosure around the drill site, similar to some of the enclosures that you see in the West LA drill sites. You'll kind of, as you're walking by in West LA, you'll see a lot of the activity, but to be like enclosed behind walls that are like, not just open air. The Murphy drill site is just an open air site. And that still has not been done. So the operating conditions the new ones that, the UNNC has advocated for in the past 2 years ago, there still has not been any movement on that. Some graffiti on the sides of the walls have been left up for, days without being scrubbed, and operating conditions it's supposed to be, I think, within 24 hours, as well as the operating hours of the drill site are supposed to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have found that, the ENB has operated as early as like 4:30 in the morning. So just in general, disturbing the peace. So all in all, in terms of formal notices of violation from, state regulators and to more local regulators, we found there have been 69 notices of violation. And again, this is all kind of summarized in this booklet thank you for that question. It's between 2021 through 2025. So ENB assumed operation as operator of this drill site, I believe, in 2019. So it's not the full history. Yes, you're right. So it's not the full history of ENB's operation, but just in the most recent 5 years has been 69 violations. Like I said, it's kind of, I summarized, I didn't go over obviously every single violation, that would be a lot, but it's summarized in this, pamphlet. Again, if anyone has interest, I can email And so, yeah, I'll stop there. This is just a newsletter. Sorry, some of these materials are in English and Spanish. I think I've got Spanish by accident, but this is just the most recent newsletter, and it does kind of already kind of summarize what I just said, with some just more images and things like that. So
this is Laura speaking. So you can send me some of these digitally and upload them
yeah,
to
absolutely.
the packet.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I can do that.
So what I'm gonna do is upload to the governing board meeting packet for tomorrow.
Okay.
Rather than well, I guess I'll upload to both.
Okay, sounds
Because
good.
technically I need to. So this is, again, Laura speaking. I wanna sort of cut to the chase on some of this. Was acid maintenance, like, we've been discussing it for some time, because it's, may or may not be dangerous on site. A bigger concern was the trucks carrying the acid
Right.
through the communities. Was it forbidden? Is it one of the conditions, or did they not sit, or does the conditional use not forbid the use of it?
No, yeah, acid maintenance is not a forbidden maintenance activity, I guess you could say. However, so I said it was around April, May of 2025 of last year where this was happening. So shortly after the pop-up protest that we did, the city did issue a zoning administrator kind of, I guess, a new regulation that put kind of more restrictions on their ability to carry out acid maintenance activities without proper notification to the community, without proper applications to the OZA in order to do that activity. So it just basically, it didn't prohibit the activity, but it made it harder. And so I think, again, not conjecturing necessarily, but it is in response, I believe, to, not just Redeemer, but Stand LA. Stand LA is a coalition of 7 other organizations that work on the oil issue, because Murphy obviously is one of thousands of oil wells in Los Angeles, the city, and also the county. So due to the collective advocacy, the city was just able to pass that rule. I will also say around the same time as when the acid maintenance stuff was happening, we did contact a lot of neighbors, and a lot of folks let us know, like, they didn't, even though they lived within the notification radius boundary, they didn't receive any notice of the acid maintenance that was happening. The city also cited that as a reason of why they then put stricter regulations on the acid maintenance activity, because, they found that, folks just were not being notified and then the notifications that were sent out, it would say, really general, like from, I'll make up a random date, like April 11th onwards. And so it didn't say like a specific day when the acid maintenance would start or end, a specific time, like 7 a.m., 10 p.m. It just kind of stated this general time frame. And it also didn't have a complete list of the chemicals that would be, like you said, trucked on site, because, acid maintenance requires the acids to be delivered. Like you said, it's driven through the neighborhoods, and then it would be dropped off at the facility. And so we found that the notification was pretty sparse. It didn't list, like I said, all the chemicals that were being used, as well as maybe the side effects of what health impacts folks can anticipate from the use of those chemicals. So so that's the acid maintenance.
Steve, I see your hand up. If you don't mind, I was jotting down some notes. Question notes. The wall. So what we did get from the operator an email this afternoon that said that and I think this is true, that putting up that new wall is time consuming. They did finally get an HPOZ clearance after going through the process of going to the board and getting approval. And then they've finished engineering, and they're in the application process at Building and Safety. Mm-hmm. Does that sound accurate to you? I mean, I know about the HPOZ, but are they in the application process at LADBS? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not actually, you know more than I on that.
Well, I don't know. I'm saying I've received a communication.
Yeah.
I haven't looked it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't confirm on that one. And I will say, when I mentioned that, it wasn't that they violated that condition, it was more the dragging of the feet, right? But you're right. I mean, they very well could be in the process with LADBS. I'm just like not entirely sure.
Okay, so what I am trying to ascertain is, usually if it's a revocation hearing, it's because specific conditions are either not being followed or have been suggested that they add. So they call it, I mean, it's not usually about oil. It's more often about liquor stores, to be frank. Right. And I have actually maybe once in my lifetime seen an actual revocation. What I've seen is maybe multiple revocation hearings over time. I think Elegant Manor was subject to them for a decade and a half, the building right on the corner of Adams and Arlington for other actual stated nuisance reasons, but the adding conditions. So personally, it sounds like there's a couple of conditions that ought to be added. And one, if the zoning administrator has done a ZA memo that may apply to everybody and not just this, well, it should be made into an actual condition that's quite literally, this is what you need to do. This, you know, it should be an added condition. And similarly, a condition that makes clear that all conditions apply specifically and equally to the operator's contractors, subcontractors. I mean, you know, in other words, not just to E&B, but anybody who touches any portion of an operation, because these conditions follow the land. They don't follow the person, or in this case, the company. But are the 69 notices of violation from 2020, 2025, are they open or were they resolved?
So I think the majority of them are, you know, resolved, right? I mean, in a lot of these, it's like they're issuing notice of violation of something that's already happened and something that's already passed, and there's not really anything to kind of rectify it from that. And for example, the most recent, I mean, one of the most recent ones from November of last year, the AQMD, the SCAQMD gave, it's, you know, something that already happened. So, I mean, I guess it's closed because of that.
Steve? You're muted.
I just find this, anyway, I appreciate Nancy's comments. I think she raises a lot of important points. Unfortunately, we're all in the dark because we don't know what the reasons are for the revocation hearing.
Sure.
It could be any of those, could be one of them, it could be none of them. The operator doesn't know what those are, and typically in one of these meetings, the operator would be here to address the claims. In past meetings regarding that drill site, the operator has attended and rebutted claims by Nancy's organization, and the committee has made motions based on the information provided by the multiple parties. In this case, we have one party providing us with information. We have no information from the city or from the council office. I find it very difficult to move forward with this item other than to be concerned about the deception being played by the planning department and by the council office regarding this case. And I'll make motions about that. But regarding the revocation, I don't see how this committee could make any decisions.
Well, this is Laura speaking. I hate going to public hearings. Remember, there's a public hearing on July 23rd. Only saying I can't say something because, I mean, in other words, I agree with you. It's very, the planning department has not been in the last 8 or 10 years usually timely or forthcoming with information, but this is beyond weird that, you know, there's no, I mean, you know, usually a revocation is not based on a motion from city council. So if city council directed the planning department to conduct a revocation case, because that's what they are, there still usually would be some sort of material that we could respond to. But that said, back at you, Steve, I would certainly, because there's some inferences in the materials that are in the other case file, I certainly would be like to be able to go to a hearing to say, we want, you know, our position has recently been, you know, that we supported the addition of conditions, 6 of them, right? That was from 2023, 2024. We welcome any new conditions that would make them a better neighbor and make the neighborhood better. I think I would again support it being clearly stated in a conditional use permit list of conditions that they apply to everybody and not just the operator. They have to apply to the subcontractors. Definitely saw that in the memos, online.
I think those are all fine. Those are all general things that are about compliance and not specific to a revocation.
Correct. But
I
I think
will
what
add
you're
that-
saying.
I will add that because of the revocation and the absence of information, we don't know if this revocation is for the specific license of E&B as an operator or for the site in total in perpetuity.
Well, we do know because a revocation is for the conditional use permit that runs with the land. It is not a slap on the hand of a person who owns a lease. Because that is why the Archdiocese is named as the applicant, because they own the land. So we do know that this is not a way to remove the license of or the lease of E&B.
The question at hand isn't really whether about, it does concern E&B, right? I mean, them being the operator and them being the perpetrator of these reasons, it does matter. However, I think to your point, Laura, this is Nancy, sorry. To your point, Laura, I think the question at hand, which is why the Archdiocese is named, is this a compatible land use in a dense neighborhood such as this? And so I think the question is much broader than just like E&B or the operator. It's really more about the land use itself of oil drilling in a dense neighborhood.
Right, and Laura speak again.
How
And
do you
I
know
guess,
that?
I think the core philosophical question, but do we really need to be without any materials debating a philosophical question? The core philosophical question would be, could any conditions make an oil drilling operation compatible in a residential neighborhood? But if that is the core question, why is that not what's on the notice?
Right.
And also hasn't the city council or the state of California, am I just being dumb? Haven't they actually passed laws that are having oil drilling just stop?
No, phase out. Phase out
Phase out?
over a 20-year period.
But aren't we about 10 years into the 20-year period at this point?
No, because there was a lawsuit that defeated the local law.
Right. So in 2022, you're right. So there was a oil phase out ordinance that the LA City passed, and then in the oil companies sued. They won in court in 2024 and fall 2024, and so currently, right now, the city council is considering another, just basically repassing that ordinance. Last week, the council just voted yes. The very first vote on this readoption of the ordinance. Now it goes back to E&E, the Environment and Energy Committee. It might get waved out of there, it might not, and then to Planning Land Use, and then it will go back to council for a second and final vote. So that ordinance is
the answer to the question is that there is no law in the city of Los Angeles that has been in effect that requires the phase out of urban oil drilling within the city.
Right. But this is Laura speaking again. Laura being cynical, is somebody so frustrated about the inability to pass those kind of laws and instead trying to utilize the established revocation procedures that are normally used for motels with prostitution and liquor stores and Elegant Manor, which had people killed. I mean, a different kind of thing, using the revocation laws to accomplish getting rid of oil, because the other legislation, I mean, I'm just being cynical. Colleen.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, if I echo Steve's frustration about the process. It just seems so weird that we're, so engaged with our reps at, our CD10 reps come to so many meetings, and I haven't heard this mentioned at any. But that's just, is what it is. If the question is, do we want oil drilling? That's an easy one to answer. No. Do we want to park on that site? Yes. But I don't know if that's the question that's before us. That's where I feel a little squirrely, is that we don't really know what the details are. And, if it's a revocation of the whole conditional use permit, that, drilling goes away, great. But, if we're looking at something, and I did hear what you said, that this isn't really what we're looking at, but it is just nerve-wracking when you can't see the documents to know what is actually on the
Right.
table. And if it's just like, get rid of a bad operator, maybe we end up with one that's worse. That's always just a little bit nerve-wracking, to be voting on something that you don't really know what you're voting on. So I don't know, maybe it's that we represent, previous conditions, and I don't know, like, if the committee feels comfortable, or if it's even appropriate to say that as a philosophical matter, we would support removal of drilling at that site. I mean, we've had removal of drilling at 2 other sites recently, and I mean, hat trick.
Yeah, well, I have to say, if I'm not mistaken, Jefferson and Budlaw was not revoked. It just stopped being profitable and was sold. It was not revoked. The only one I know, the oil drilling revocation that I know of, is at Mount St. Mary's, so 23rd and St. James Park. And I do believe that one's been revoked, but that one was horrid. I mean, I don't know if you've ever paid attention to
The Allen
that.
Coach site?
Yeah, Allen Cove, yeah, I mean, comparing, it's not right to compare, this one's much bigger. But that one was really bad. We have some properties on that street, so, I'm familiar. And there's no comparison. The oddity is, of all the operators through the years on this site, EMB has actually been the most responsive compared to, before you were born, as probably. So I don't know. I mean, my feeling, I'm as the person who kind of likes to moderate things, I don't necessarily think that our previous position, which again was that they should follow all the rules and they should operate safely, and that it's okay to impose new conditions if it's going to make it better. I don't know that that's a bad position to take forward, along with a commentary that, this cannot proceed in these cases without absolute transparency. What are the specific things that lead to a decision even to hold a revocation hearing? And it cannot just be a council motion, because again, that's a political motion. I mean, the ZA is directed to do it, but just by being directed to do it doesn't mean you're not supposed to do some homework and reveal what the homework revealed, and do so in a timely manner, so that any party, including people who are advocating to remove it, people who are relying on their income from it. I mean, there's a lot of different stakeholders.
I'm gonna line up behind these first.
I do see. Okay.
So I'd like to.
Wait. Siobhan hasn't said anything yet, so let Siobhan speak.
Hi. I confess I'm coming into this a little bit late, and I was able to go through some of the agenda materials, but not all of them before this meeting. And obviously I'm the new kid here. But based on what is happening in my hometown of Santa Barbara County with the offshore oil drilling on the oil platforms up the coast, which you see if you drive up there, I share Steve's concern about the lack of transparency. And again, dumb new quick kid question: what is stopping us from talking to Heather Hutt's office tomorrow morning and going, what the heck? What is this about? In 72 hours? That's totally inappropriate. Is there is there some, can we get more information from them before tomorrow?
Well, you mean for the board meeting?
Yeah,
Nothing's stopping me from putting that question out. I don't know if I'm gonna get an answer back in a timely manner, but there's nothing stopping me leaving this meeting tonight and emailing Andrew and Hakeem and just saying, hey, and not only that, looking in the city clerk's council file management system to see if there's any paperwork along with the motion at council, because I didn't realize it was a motion. But usually a motion to a department directing them to do something is a report back. So not just proceed to hearing and don't do any homework. So, or maybe the hearing is to collect the information to report back. I don't know.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
Because,
know. I just feel like the cloak and dagger routine concerns me for the same reasons it concerns Steve. But I don't know. I don't know if there's some mechanism by which we force the information out of them. What is going on? What is this regarding? Because we're all, as far as I know, UNNC is already on the record with a position on this. We could change our position on it, but to Steve's point, it going around and around about it without any information is spectacularly unhelpful. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Siobhan. I have 3 motions I would like to make, and I will make them in turn. And I think that we should address each motion in turn and vote on them individually.
Fine. Okay. And so the good news is we have a transcription service.
Right. So,
but I'm going to take some notes anyway.
Great. And I think we're kind of circling the drain at this point, so it's timely to have a motion.
Yeah.
So my first motion is in support of our pit bull Laura said with
no, we can't have that in the motion.
That's the premise of the motion. It's not the motion itself.
Okay.
The motion is that we reiterate that we recommend to the governing board that it reiterate the neighborhood council's position that all compliance mandates must be complied with, right? All the conditions of approval must be applied with. And to add to that any subcontractors working at the site should also be obligated to comply with those conditions. So that's my motion.
Okay. I sure wish I had remembered. Let's see.
Right, I do have a comment, but
sure.
Let's see if there's any.
Okay, so we recommend. Yeah, see, I should have turned this on. Could have read that. We recommend to the UNNC governing board that it reiterate that all conditions must be complied with, and any subcontractors working at the site, it applies to them.
That's correct. So is there a second for the motion?
Yeah, is there a second for the motion? Does anyone second the motion? So
I will second.
Thank you. Okay, comment.
Thank you. So I will say just in the conditions, obviously, we do want them to comply with existing law, regulation, conditions. I will say since 2024, right, CalGEM's issued a notice of violation for them not remedying an idle well. They've sprayed a neutralizing agent into the air to mask the smell of oil. That's violating an AQMD condition. The 4 times explosive level leak was in January of last year. The acid maintenance was in April of last year. A violation of using a TL3 diesel pump against their conditional use permit, that was in November, and then the one that was the degassing equipment was also November. So
and you're gonna give me all that.
That says, yeah, absolutely. Okay. That has been since the last South LA Area Planning Commission adopted these conditions, and so I think that and that's not the first time, right? There's been others before that. That's just the most one in recent history. But I think that just shows their, no matter how many conditions we put on them, I'm not sure that that will result in a change in the behavior or a following of regulatory rules. I think that they've just shown kind of neglect in following the rules and being a good operator, being a good neighbor to in the community. So I'm not sure that more conditions will change that, but I mean, I see obviously this is addressing the violations and things like that, but I just do want to put it out there that, you know, we've just seen this happen again and again where the community is raising these concerns. The city goes, okay, you know what, we see that, we're going to put more operating conditions on this operator. It doesn't really result in material change because it doesn't come with necessarily like a fine or a, you know, timeline of when this needs to be done, but rather just a blanket, you know, okay, go follow the rules and here are more rules to follow. So that's my
I appreciate that, Nancy. However, I think that we're only hearing one side of possibly a three-sided story with your comments. And all the violations, if they are actually proven and documented violations provided to the operator, always have a timeline for compliance. And we don't know whether they met those timelines for compliance. I mean, we really, I hear what you're saying, but we're not getting the whole picture here. So
Steve, what I would like, this is Laura speaking, can we know what, I know we have if this is Robert's rules purely, we have to vote on the first motion before we go to a second or a third. But maybe we need to know what you're thinking about for motion 2 and
my
motion
second
3.
and third motions are related to the process of how this came about and not the revocation itself.
Got it. Okay. So then I would suggest for an amendment. I mean, in other words, part of what we're doing here is creating something I can utilize, or you can, I mean, whoever's designated by us to attend the July 23rd meeting to speak on UNNC's behalf and to present a letter. Should we acknowledge that we have heard all I mean, we will have heard, we have heard how there have been many violations. The community is very concerned about it. We're concerned about it. I mean, in other words, that's probably what you want us to say, right?
Sure.
I mean, in other words,
Sure, I'm happy to
you hear what I'm asking here.
Yeah, so you accept that.
So, and also I don't think there's anything in this motion that prevents us in a letter to say we're attaching our prior letter and we're expanding upon it now. So I think the motion stays simple, that we are going to ask the governing board to reiterate that our position is that any and all conditions must be complied with. Again, not just a conditional use permit, CUP conditions, but federal, state, local, agency conditions, and that they should be applied to any subcontractors at any time who work on the premises. Okay, so can we vote, please? And alas, I don't think either.
I'm not sure if I
No, because I believe Redeemer's address, I mean, this is the way city council has put it, that the address of the organization is not inside our boundary. So in the past, like when Richard was present, his kid attended the school.
Right.
So, but unless you have a kid at the school on the corner or another school, I don't see that you can vote.
Yeah, I'm so bad with geography. Can you just tell me if I live within I live in.
No, if you live at Arlington and 41st or 21st
Why am I forgetting where I live? Arlington and MLK, yeah, on 42nd.
Yeah, you're just a few blocks.
Okay.
That
I should move.
few blocks east.
Okay.
So for those who are on Zoom and you plan to vote, all in favor of the motion to recommend to the governing board that it reiterate that all conditions must be complied with, the long list of conditions, plus that any subcontractors who work on the premises, the conditions apply to them. So all in favor, raise your virtual hand or your real hand. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, plus 7. And then take your hands down, including your virtual hands. Is there any opposition? Are there abstentions? It looks like we have 2 abstentions. Okay, so motion passes. Steve, what's your next motion?
My
please?
second motion is we recommend to the governing board that a strong letter be sent to Councilperson Hutt and her staff, her highest level staff, expressing concern that the neighborhood council was not notified of this action. We were not kept abreast of the information, and that the information is being willfully withheld from the community, the neighborhood council, and the operator without sufficient time because the release is planned for 72 hours before the hearing, without sufficient time for any of the interested parties to prepare for a hearing. And we ask that our council person address that issue directly with the neighborhood council and communicate with the planning department, the Office of Zoning Administration, that these kinds of materials need to be released at least 2 weeks before a hearing in order to allow for a transparent and democratic process in which we enfranchise our communities rather than disenfranchise them by withholding relevant information.
I'll second that.
Okay. Susan, I said I have.
It is nice.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I don't know if this is the right time, but I was wondering if a friendly amendment that 2 weeks is maybe not enough time, because 2 weeks doesn't give time for this committee and governing board meetings necessarily. So 2 weeks doesn't necessarily seem like enough based on
Great.
neighborhood
How
council
about 4 weeks?
processes. Yeah.
Okay.
How about 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I would say. I've always thought they don't do enough time, but the not enough time is usually 10 days. So 2 weeks is longer than 10 days, and I don't know what this 72-hour BS is, to be honest.
I'm happy to have 1 month. I think it should be a minimum of 1 month.
Well, the
So
hearing
let's
is
ask for it.
Well, the hearing is being held literally 1 month after the quote case was deemed complete. So we for this one, there's no way we can get 1 month.
Oh, that's an important point, Laura. So I'd like to expand my motion to indicate, I'll correct it to be in the future should be 1 month. And we ask our council office to obtain the materials immediately and provide them to the president of the neighborhood council for appropriate distribution.
Okay. Siobhan, do you accept this amended motion?
Absolutely.
There's absolutely no reason for this opaque process.
Because I'm pretty sure no matter which side of this you're on, you'd want to be able to read what they're gonna.
Planning materials.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been fighting this oil war for more than a decade. And I have to say, if my voice doesn't illustrate it, I'm very upset about how this process unfolded.
Yeah,
Okay.
even when I don't like the outcome, I still want the process to be fair and transparent.
Exactly.
Well, and visible to any member of the public who has any opinion whatsoever.
Has any interest at all. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's just vote. All in favor? Raise your hand, please. Virtual or on screen. About one. Oh, excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again. Any opposition?
Laura, I'm in. I just can't find my hand.
Okay, are you a yes or an
I'm a
opposition?
yes. I just can't find my hand.
8. All right. Thank you. Okay, and then the last motion, I ran out of room on my piece of paper though, but go
My
ahead,
last motion is essentially the same as the second, but directed to the city office of planning and the office of the zoning administrator,
okay, same letter.
objecting to the process, asking for immediate release of the materials on the grounds of transparency, fairness, and the fact that they're disenfranchising all interested parties by this opaque process.
And I'll second that again.
If you can't see it, the smoke's coming out of my ears.
I cannot see that, but
It's there.
okay, it's there. All right, is there any further discussion? We've probably beaten this horse a little to death. All in favor? Okay, well, Michael found his hand. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Thank you.
Okay, go. So obviously, if I get materials, you're gonna give
Yeah,
me your
I'll email.
contact,
Yes, and I'll get you emails.
right, when the meeting's over, okay. Because I think you can tell that Steve and I are like, it's everybody who needs this information. It doesn't even matter what direction you're approaching this situation is. Okay, moving on. We have follow-up to previous cases, ENS and old business. Steve and I were very briefly discussing before we convened the meeting that the city has actually done 2 things in the last week and a half, maybe more than that. But one thing is that the city council did adopt its response to an approach to SB 79. It was signed by the mayor yesterday, and the state law takes effect today, as does the city's response. So SB 79 being the law that established within a radius of train stations, sort of a overcoming of local zoning regulations and the allowance of high density housing, regardless of what the zone is. They did provide some delay tactics to cities, and the city of LA is taking advantage of the delay tactic by basically punting the rezoning of the city down to 2030, exempting for the moment low opportunity areas, HPOZs, hillside and wildfire areas, and for higher opportunity areas, which would be primarily on the west side of Los Angeles and the West Valley, or the valley as a whole. They've adopted a version of higher density that I think is up to 4 stories, so not unlimited height and not unlimited density. I'm not very clear, in single family zones that are within this, small radius to a train station. So for example, for people who live in Rancho Park near the Overland and exposition line at Overland and Westwood Boulevard, or people who live in Little Holmby, which is by UCLA and near the Wilshire and Westwood Station D line, they are impacted. They will have higher zoning, but our area at the moment is not impacted. And not only that, at the moment, the Adams and Crenshaw station and the San Vicente and Venice station have been removed from the list. So we don't seem to have been as impacted as we worried about, but the city now has to rezone everything in order to somehow create enough density around stations where they don't have to actually take out the single family zoning, is my understanding. So the only way to continue to protect the areas that will be currently protected would be to change the zoning. Yes, Michael?
So it's still a half a mile around the train station. the metro
It's still
station.
half a mile,
Okay.
but for example, and this may now be moot, but for example, the half mile around Adams and Crenshaw already has sufficient zoning capacity that exceeds the requirements of SB 79, but it's not in every quadrant. So that in other words, where you personally live would not need to be rezoned if the city accomplishes rezoning the entire city, because your spot is already properly zoned. You know, not yours, not your house, but the R3 zoning, the zoning on Crenshaw already has the capacity in that radius. So that's what they're trying to do. I just don't know, when there's no budget available, how they're actually going to accomplish it. I mean, they've kicked the can down the road, but I don't see how they're going to accomplish it in 2030. So, other than that, I did not read all the details. I did not look at all the maps. I can't tell you much more. Steve, do you know anything more? No. And then the other thing is the ODS or ODS. Steve, you did go to that.
So there was a Office of Historic Resources, Department of Planning workshop last night regarding objective design standards within HPOZs. As a very back of the envelope review, HPOZ plans have essentially been overridden by state laws requiring higher density of housing. And the reason why they've been overridden is because it is claimed that they don't have objective standards, meaning standards that an interested party could look at and say definitively, this is what I can do. So essentially requiring a checklist. And so OHR, in response to these issues regarding HPOZs and in the interest of historic preservation, has put together drafts of objective design standards that will be used for all HPOZs within the city. I believe there are now 35 with a couple in waiting. And there are a couple carve-outs because I guess OHR has determined that 33 of the 35 HPOZs are essentially the same in terms of, you know, 1 or 2 story homes and some commercial districts. But the 2 that are carved out that are different, I think because of building materials, are the Gregory Ain tract. And then there's is Mar Vista separate from that one? Or
No, that's the Gregory
one in the valley, the
Balboa Highlands.
yeah, I think it's the Balboa Highlands or Heights.
So the 2 mid-century modern ones are carved out.
Yeah, they have a couple exceptions to the draft rules.
That's weirdly stupid.
Well, whatever. The
No,
draft.
I mean, in other words, I'm just thinking of all the HPOCs that have little homes, like Stonehurst in the valley, and then the couple of HPOCs that have big mansions on major lots. I mean, because lot coverage should be one of the things they're dealing with. So okay.
Yeah, and that is addressed to a degree. You'll have to read the draft, and I'm happy to talk to people about it. I didn't come prepared to present this.
All right, that's fine.
At a later meeting. I will talk about at least one issue that's impacted us locally, specifically in Jefferson Park. We have had oversized, overmassed, and overscaled building proposals within the Jefferson Park HPOZ. We've been very concerned about that, and they get approved ministerially. They don't even go to the board. So our main concern, a significant concern we've had locally,
and the board you just referred to was the
HPOZ board. Yes. Yes. So one of our big concerns is whether the objective design standards would include height, massing, and scale restrictions. And the draft ODS do not include that at all. And so that was raised during the workshop, very specifically. And that by not doing that, you're actually looking at the destruction of HPOZs, the character defining the character defining aspects of HPOZs. Ken Bernstein responded in a different way than he has in the past. And so in the past, so for example, I appealed a decision at Jefferson and Arlington of the Burger Palace. Some of you here may recall us discussing it in this meeting and at the board, at the UNNC board meeting, that the proposal was for a 6-story cube that would essentially fill the entire lot, that was totally out of scale, massing, and size with the HPOZ. I wrote an appeal regarding that ministerial decision by a zoning administrator and appealed to Ken Bernstein as well. Ken actually did respond to me, and he said the reason why he would not act on this is because the Jefferson Park Preservation Plan does not have objective design standards regarding height. I said it actually does, but he denied that. Okay, fine. And then he said, the way to move forward in the future is to create objective design standards regarding height. Okay, so they're now creating objective design standards, but it doesn't include height. Why not? Ken said last night that they can't include height, scale, and massing, except for certain kinds of setbacks, because of the state laws of requiring that cities not invoke height requirements on new housing. So we're getting different stories now as the days unfold.
Did he say what the state law was?
He didn't say the specific law, but it's not SB 79. I'm assuming it was the law previous to that.
Well, I mean, I don't know what he's talking about. I do know that height was eliminated as an environmental concern, meaning for CEQA. That's a completely different thing.
Exactly.
So I mean, it would be worth asking him what state law, because I don't, or asking John Arnold, because he'll know the answer, just saying.
Yeah. So
I miss him sitting here beside us because he would know.
The comment period for these draft design standards is July 21st.
July what?
July 21st.
Okay.
Ends July 21st. And if you go to the OHR website and ODS.
So let me ask you this. The UNNC's comment letter that was approved some while ago, are there any elements in it that we can just keep sending? Because obviously the board's not going to deal with this again.
Yeah, I certainly height, I believe, was height, scale, and massing was a part of it.
Yeah.
We mandated that there be public outreach, which they ostensibly are doing. We wanted them to have not a one size fits all.
Right. So I think we can do some repetitive. Marina has her hand up. Sorry, I kind of ignored it, Marina. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I attended the meeting too, and I was just reflecting today. They did do a very firm carve out for contributing structures, to protect contributing structures, making sure they aren't demolished and that they aren't moved. And I'm sorry I didn't think about it last night, but I thought about it today. There's no provision for non-contributing structures, which makes me ask whether a developer could come in and just knock down non-contributing structures and build 6-story buildings in the heart of an HPOZ. Does anybody know?
Yes, that's actually in the draft plan, and I could comment on that. And it was discussed a little bit last night. Marina may have missed it. So if it depends on what the facing street is. So if the structure that's a non-contributor is on a street of non-contributors, then the ODS say that the only thing the developer has to do is comply with the underlying zoning, not the HPOZ plan.
Okay,
It doesn't even take into account, it doesn't even take into account the facing street. So there could be contributors on the facing street, and that they don't care. They were actually called that, and they said.
But are they actually saying it would, if they're on a street with 100% other non-contributors, or is there a percentage?
100% non-contributors. It reverts back to the underlying zoning.
Okay, so if it's on a street with 2 contributors and 8 non-contributors, then
Now you have to go back and look at the draft for that level of.
Marina.
Yes, that wasn't exactly what I was saying. My concern here is that while the contributing structures in an HPOZ are protected, non-contributors do not seem to be protected from just willful demolition.
Okay, you're talking about demolition. I don't think objective design standards include, like, we should ask this question, include changing whether or not buildings can be demolished. That's not a design standard, that's in the preservation plans. And with non-contributors, I thought in the maybe not preservation plans, in the cultural heritage ordinance.
In the preservation plan, demolition.
As well. Yeah, but maybe not all preservation plans, but the cultural heritage ordinance sets forth procedures and protocols for demolitions in an HPOZ, whether or not something's a contributor. I don't think planning department follows it, but normally what's supposed to happen is an economic infeasibility study has to be completed before a demolition permit is to be issued. That's in the ordinance, not in the preservation plans, I believe. But none of that has anything to do with design standards. I think the design standards are only invoked if the demolition's allowable. If I can say that right. So the question would be from HPOZ to HPOZ to HPOZ, when are non-contributors allowed to be demolished? And
Right.
I don't think we can answer that question here at a planning and zoning committee meeting.
I
So,
encourage everyone who's interested in historic preservation in the city to go
Right.
and look at these draft policies that they're promulgating and send in your comments by July 21st.
okay. All right. Is there any other follow-up to any other previous cases? We've had a lot of cases, but I'm forgetting what most of them are. Oh, yes, Colleen. You have a liquor store hearing coming up, do you not? In a week? Less than a week?
July 7th is the liquor store hearing.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, was struggling to
You
find the
were
unmute.
beginning to dream that we were getting rid
We
of
were
this
finished,
meeting.
yeah. Yeah, is that on the governing board
Follow up
agenda?
to previous agenda.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
Follow-
on the 7th, I believe, after 4:30 at the South LA Area Planning Commission. Did you ever get, Laura, the notice officially? I know I sent it to you because I got it by email. I don't know why, but we never got it in the mail as neighbors.
I don't think they send things out in the mail as neighbors.
They did
you know
for
what?
they did for the hearing on,
Yeah, but I don't know that APC sends out physical notices. Is it posted on the building?
not that I've seen, but I haven't looked,
Okay,
just-
well, in any case, yes, the South Los Angeles Area Planning Commission is conducting an in-person meeting at 4:30 Tuesday afternoon at the Council District 8 Constituent Services Center on Vermont, just north of Manchester. I don't know the address by heart.
And this
And
is
it-
regarding circus liquor and the 2 conditions that the zoning administrators, 3 zoning administrators have put on that operation since, who knows when, decade or 2 back. And those 2 conditions are that they must cease selling alcohol by 11 p.m. and they must have a licensed uniform security guard on the premises from noon to 11, I think it is. And
So,
they're still to
go ahead.
overturn those conditions.
So UNNC forwarded its previous letter, and we will. My internet connect. We're about to end the meeting because I'm getting notices that we have unstable internet here. Assuming we have quorum tomorrow night and we get through the whole meeting, which I'm confident we will, we will have a community impact statement and resolution. So such that UNNC can ask for additional time to speak at this commission hearing. So, but I've already submitted our position letter from previous. Okay, so I think I need to adjourn the meeting just in case. Our next meeting is, oh, Siobhan? Siobhan?
I just have one follow-up item,
Sure.
on the matter of Wilshire Toe
Right,
and our note to the planning and zoning administrator. I have gathered as much evidence as I think I can. I have put out a call to several members of the community, Grace, Ed, a couple other people, but I haven't gotten any responses from anyone.
okay. Well, Grace is out of the
So-
country, so that she probably couldn't be responding so easily.
Well, she had reached out to me because I had texted her and said,
Right.
you know, what do you need? And I said, I'm looking for documentation of these violations. And if
Right.
any of the neighbors have anything, I need that. And I gave her a deadline of a week, but I haven't heard from her since. And that was almost a month ago.
Right. I
So
think she
I,
agree.
okay, I didn't know that, but I mean, I'd asked Ed, I'd asked a couple of other people, so I need some help gathering that documentation,
Yeah.
or we need to just submit the letter without it. I have some of the documentation needed that documents violations, namely, there's 4, I think, off the top of my head that they're in pretty flagrant violation of. The other issue is that the last 2 times that I've been over there to take photos and document what's going on over there, there's either a driver or a tech on site who has resorted to quietly I think they're trying to intimidate me. And
Oh,
so
God.
if I'm going to continue going over, this was in my note to you from a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you got it, Laura, but they've been taking out a Canon DSLR or some sort of digital camera and pointing it at me. I don't care if they take pictures of me, you know, they can take pictures of me all day, but it feels a little threatening because I'm not the one violating the law here. I'm just documenting the violations of their conditional use permit, which they know they're doing already. Like, this is not a big secret. We just have
Siobhan,
to get a couple pictures of it, but it does feel
Siobhan, it's
intimidating,
Michael.
and I don't want to go over there. Yes.
I'm making a suggestion. Why don't you carry a camera as well? And when you go there, film them filming you.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got pictures of all of that.
All right. Well,
So if I'm going to go over there again, I need
Yeah.
to do it while my husband is with me, or someone in the neighborhood, Ed,
Right.
Dawn, someone else. But if there's documentation already existing, I would like to gather that so I don't have to go over there again and
Okay.
possibly risk this guy coming after me. I don't know.
Well, let's talk to Ed Saunders tomorrow night and see if he's
Okay.
been able to take photos or if he would.
Yeah.
Since he's directly affected by this. I haven't taken any photos, but I can.
The stuff I'm trying to get is the stuff that it's very difficult to get. So the noise.
You can't take noise.
Right. So a video that captures the noise. I've tried to like sit over there and surreptitiously watch, because I know that the trucks are not supposed to be doing donuts around that block onto 20th Street. And I've seen them do it, but it's been at times where I don't have my phone out, and it's I got to fumble with it and grab the phone. And by that time they're down the block. And I also haven't caught anybody who has picked up their car, who's dragged it off to the side of the block and is trying to fix it. Although several residents have complained directly to me about it, I haven't caught anybody in the act. So those are the 3 that I'm like, I need some help here.
Okay. Yeah, and then obviously the thing that bothers me the most is it may not be an actual violation, but it shows how they're a nuisance, is the big flatbed trucks taking, 6 or 7 of the big flatbed trucks taking all the parking on Washington Boulevard.
I have several photos of that and have included that in the letter as well. That part of their demand of their conditional use permit. It should be.
Right. Okay. Well, we now know there's another way to get a nuisance revocation. We just asked the council member to do a motion. So, so whatever. Okay. Well, let us adjourn. And and again, we have a scheduled meeting on the 17th. I do not know if we will actually have one. I guess I should report that Caesar did have his first mobility and transportation subcommittee meeting, because that's a subcommittee of the planning committee. We had that meeting on Monday night. Not great attendance, but we're on our way to having, that committee get enacted as well. So I might be suggesting to him that he take the 17th meeting if we don't have any actual land, cases. So, okay. Thank
Sounds
you
good.
all.
Thank you.
And I will see you tomorrow night, or at least many of you. And I think I'll see